I met the devil for the first time when I was 15 years old. I'd moved with my family to Wichita Falls in the summer of 2003. My dad had been injured in a work accident, and the resulting lawsuit allowed him an early retirement to the small-town life he had always wanted. The new house was an old house, a white clapboard 2-story structure with a wraparound porch and vaulted ceilings that backed up to a small creek bed. And I loved the feeling of living in someone else's history, stepping into the ruins of countless other lives. As far as I ever knew, the house had no history of occult activity. Afterward, when years and distance had healed me some, I went back there and looked into it. No seances or black masses were held there. The previous family wasn't ritualistically slaughtered, nor were there ghosts. It was, as far as I could tell, just a house, until the devil came to visit. The first time I saw him, I was on the back porch, my feet up on the railing, and a book open in my lap. The sun was setting. Texas has the best sunsets. I think it's all the petrochemical shit in the air. Its slow exsanguination creating a fiery portrait overhead. The reds and purples and bruised pinks seeping down below the tree line. I was trying to concentrate on my reading, J.D. Salinger's 9 Stories, if anyone is wondering, when I saw movement in the yard, over where the property line merged with the copse of trees that separated the house from the creek. There was a figure standing there, back among the trees. Before you ask, no, I wasn't terrified. There were no preternatural chills running through me, no supernatural foreboding. As I recall, it was rather ordinary, a neighbor out for a walk, perhaps. The figure waved at me and I waved back, and I returned to reading my book. When I looked up again, the figure was gone. That night in bed, I had a dream. I was walking along an empty highway overpass at night. The weather was bad, wind and rain lashing down amid the distant roll of thunder. Looking out across the guardrail, I could see the twinkling lights of a distant carnival. Old-fashioned red and white tents glowed within the collection of Ferris wheels and roller coasters. I could just hear the sounds of laughter and music coming from the carnival and smell the faintest hints of caramel and butter. I wanted to hop the guardrail and be there.
Disgusting, isn't it?
In the manner of dreams, I don't remember being startled by the sudden appearance of a stranger in the dark with me. He was simply there, and I accepted it. Impossibly tall, he leaned against the guardrail casually, with his hands thrust into his pockets. The cowl of his black hoodie concealed his face in shadow, but I could somehow feel that he was smiling at me. "What is?" I asked.
This.
He gestured toward the island of light in the dark.
You all. People.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I felt the need to apologize. Who are you?
Oh, you know, I go by a lot of names. Mostly because you people can't agree on anything.
Do you live here? His hoodie bobbed in an imitation of a headshake.
I live lots of places. I can touch the world more easily from here. I'm everywhere.
It's dark here, I said.
You want to go there, don't you? Those lights? I came from there once, long ago. It isn't worth the price of admission, you know.
He moved closer to me.
But I can get you in.
How? He held out a hand. His fingers were long and pale, and tapered, delicate like a woman's.
I'm pretty good at getting in places. The trick is finding a hole you can fit through, a chink in the armor. I can show you, but you can't get something for nothing.
I looked at his open palm. What do you want?
What do you have to trade? I love a good bargain.
His words were sucked away by the wind and lost to die on my ears, just seconds after being given voice. I don't have anything valuable to trade, I said. He clicked his tongue.
Well, what have you got? It doesn't have to be anything valuable.
He paused to consider.
How about that button?
He touched a button on the collar of my shirt.
Yes, that would be enough. One old button for a trip out there.
You want this button? I fingered it absently.
Why not? It's just a button.
On the one hand, I knew I was dreaming, and after all, it was just a shirt button, and the glowing warmth of the distant carnival sang to me. Yet on the other, something else seemed off about it. Something small, that picked at my sleeping mind like a nail picks at scabs. Some sense of wrongness about the hooded man. Something old and black that mankind has lost the words for. The button came off with a reluctant pluck between my fingers, and I gazed at its white round simplicity. I looked off toward the carnival. It looked warm and dry and felt like home. I held out the button. You'll take me there, right?
Nothing simpler.
I dropped it into his palm, and those long fingers curled around it. I could feel that hidden smile of his growing. The man's fingers gripped my shoulder, pulling me up atop the guardrail. Nothing but inky black unfurled beneath us. He stepped off into nothingness, me with him, and my heart leapt into my head. Air rushed around me, and I felt the ground rising, the figure's fingers digging into my shoulders like hot iron, and I knew I was going to hit the ground and snap awake. But the carnival rose up ahead of me, bathing me in the rosy light from rows and rows of 80-watt light bulbs lining the entrance to the fairground. Accordion music rang out, and through the archway I could see other people, families and children, rushing back and forth, laughing and smiling. The man from the overpass was still there, standing just back from the light of the carnival, arms folded across his chest.
Didn't I tell you? Nothing simpler. I do love when it's easy like that. One gets so tired of teaching musicians a few chords.
I nodded thoughtfully, stepping toward the entrance. What are you going to do with my button?
Does it matter?
I shook my head. I was under the main entryway now. The smell of candy apples and boiled peanuts was overpowering. The music was much louder, almost deafening, and warm, so hot under the glare of so many bulbs. Why was everyone smiling like that?
Call it a good faith payment. Next time we'll trade for something else.
He had retreated farther into the shadows around the edge of the fairground. I could barely make him out when I turned back in alarm. What? Who are you?
You know who I am. I'm what you don't believe in. What you've always been a little afraid of. In the dark. In your bed at night when you'd piss yourself and cry for your mommy to come sit with you.
His voice had dropped to the thinness of rustling leaves.
I'm the devil. And now, I know you, Jay.
Fear gripped me. Hot and wild, unashamed fear took me in that nightmare as I turned to run into the safety of the carnival. But where the lights and sounds and happiness had been, now was only flame. And lightning crashed from the clouds above, striking the Ferris wheel, again and again, and the people on the rides were screaming. Others were running past me, faster and faster, with horrific grins ripping their faces as they ran and danced, laughing into the spreading flames. My bed resolved itself into cool, hard, familiar reality beneath me, anchoring me to the world that was my bedroom. My sheets were soaked with sweat, and the comforter was a knotted mess around my legs and waist. I sat up in bed, panting, clutching my head in my hands. A nightmare. A fucking nightmare. When I had sufficiently calmed down, I got up, changed my sheets, and sat at my desk, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the new house settling around me in the night. The dream disturbed me and left me restless. I sat up a few more hours before slipping back under the covers as the sky began to lighten, but sleep remained elusive. When my alarm went off at 6:30, I got up and got ready for school. Standing at the closet, I rooted around for something to wear before pulling a plaid button-up off the hook. Funny, I thought, as I pulled it on. When had I lost a button? Hey guys and ladies, thanks for watching. If you want me to tell your story or read a creepypasta, email me at the address in the description. Be good to animals, even people. So,
Ja, snämar, Bergsbus, Rish. Story time.
I wanted to tell the story of how I got my 5th grade teacher fired. On accident. But he was a douche anyway. I'm not going to say his name, but we used to call him Peter Skin. This was a Christian school. I know it's hard to believe, but I did go to Christian school. There was a certain day a week we could bring a toy or something, or a book. It wasn't show and tell, it was like, I don't know, fun time. But anyway, we could bring something. So I brought a yo-yo. Some people brought a book, or I don't remember. So anyway, it was time to stop. Well, I couldn't get the yo-yo off my finger. I don't even think you're supposed to tie a knot. It's just like a loop that you go through itself or something. But I tied a knot. So I couldn't get it off. And Peterskin's like, put it away. I said to put it away, and I'm like, I can't get it off. And my finger was like purple. I mean, it was obvious I couldn't get it off. I wasn't doing it to be a smartass. And so he's like, pulls out a pocket knife. He's like, well, maybe I'll cut it off. Maybe I'll cut your finger off too. I wasn't scared. He was full of shit. This is the same guy, actually, that humiliated me for cussing. I've always cussed. I love it. But, so he found out I was cussing at recess or something. I don't know. So he makes me come up to the front of the class with a dictionary. Gives me a dictionary. And he's like, look up the F word. And there's like 10, there's a lot of definitions, like fuck off, fuck up. You know what I mean? So he's telling me to read all of them. Read the definitions to the class. Well, I started crying because, I would cry if someone yelled at me, or I used to cry all the time. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, I start crying. I hardly make it through one fuck. But I wish I could go back and do it again, man. I'd read the shit out of that. Anyway, after he has a pocket knife out and he says he's going to cut it off, and I'm like, I can't get it off. He sends me to the office. Well, I go into the office. They're like, what's going on? I tell them the story. Everything that happened. Including the cutting of the finger and whatever. I wasn't looking to get the guy in trouble. I was just telling the story. The next day he was gone. And we had basically a sub for the rest of the year. And that's how I got my 5th grade teacher, Peter Skin, fired. So this has been another installment of Storytime.
Story time.